Evelyn Harper stood quietly on the balcony of the sleek rooftop hotel, the city lights sprawling beneath her like a sea of fireflies trapped beneath glass. The night air was crisp, filled with the distant hum of traffic and the occasional echo of laughter from below. She cradled a glass of chilled white wine between her fingers, the condensation cool against her skin. Across from her, Lucas Bennett sat with the relaxed ease of a man who'd seen more boardrooms than parties, yet his eyes held a spark that told another story. One of hope, of shared battles won and those still ahead. "It's strange," Evelyn began, her voice soft but steady. "Just 6 weeks ago, I thought my life was completely off course. I was sitting alone in that airport, convinced that everything I'd worked for had slipped through my fingers." She looked away briefly, tracing the patterns of the distant lights with her gaze. "Now, here I am, halfway around the world, helping launch something I didn't even know existed before." Lucas smiled, a slow, genuine curve of lips. "You don't just help, Evie. You shape it. The media coverage your team pulled together was brilliant. We've already had 3 major partner airlines reach out. You're changing the game." Evelyn let out a small laugh, setting her glass down on the railing. "I'm still learning every day. Honestly, it feels like I'm starting over, like the first day on a new job all over again." Lucas leaned forward, elbows resting on his knees. "Good. If it doesn't feel new, it's not worth doing." His eyes searched hers for a moment, the kind of look that digs beneath the surface. "I saw what you did with the technicians today, standing with every one of them for photos, shaking every hand. That mattered." She met his gaze, surprised by the intensity. "I meant it," Lucas said quietly. "When you've spent years feeling invisible, you learn how much it means to be seen." The silence between them stretched, not uncomfortable, but full. Then his smile softened. "I never expected any of this." Evelyn broke the moment with a gentle chuckle. "Not the job, or everything." He tilted his head, eyes twinkling. "All of it." A cool breeze swept over them, carrying the scent of rain from the distant mountains. Evelyn pulled her blazer tighter around her and looked out toward the horizon. "Sometimes I think about that woman I was running down Gate 6C, breathless and desperate. That version of me feels like a stranger now. Maybe she's still inside somewhere, quieter, braver." Lucas nodded thoughtfully. "You're starting to understand what this really is, aren't you?" Evelyn's voice dropped, intimate. "Yeah, it's not just a company. It's a promise. A promise to the people who have always been left behind. We're not just giving them wings, we're teaching them how to fly." Lucas didn't speak immediately. He simply watched her, as if memorizing every word. "Exactly." They sat together in silence, the city below wrapped in the quiet glow of night. Finally, Evelyn smiled shyly. "So, about that coffee I still owe you." Lucas laughed softly. "I was wondering when you'd bring that up. I'm a man of my word. Been waiting patiently." She raised her glass. "Then let's make it count." The private jet touched down at the sprawling Metropolis International Airport with barely a whisper against the tarmac. Through the window, Evelyn watched the ground crew hustle under a sky brushed with the faintest hues of lavender as dusk settled. Lucas, calm and collected, flipped through a stack of briefing folders, his face the picture of focus. Evelyn hadn't slept much on the flight, not from nerves, but anticipation. This wasn't just another ribbon-cutting event. It was her first major international launch as the new director of global communications for Skybound Air, a company aiming to reshape aviation with a mission that went beyond business. Her heart fluttered as the cabin door opened and the humid evening air swept in. She stood and smoothed the crease in her jacket, stealing a glance at Lucas. "Nervous?" he asked with a knowing smile. "No," she replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "But ask me again in an hour." Lucas grinned and offered his arm in a playful gesture. "Come on, let's make some history." The press conference was held in an open-air hangar draped in strings of Edison bulbs, casting a golden glow over the gathered crowd. Skybound banners rippled softly in the breeze, framing the modest stage where Evelyn would soon stand. She moved slowly through the crowd, passing workers clad in crisp navy polos, government officials in tailored suits, and a cluster of trainees standing barefoot at the back, some with worn sneakers. Their eyes shone with a mixture of awe and pride. Evelyn felt her breath catch. This was what she had helped build. People who once thought the sky was out of reach, now standing beneath it, claiming their place. Her name echoed over the speakers, and Evelyn stepped up to the podium. Warm applause greeted her, sincere and steady. Not overwhelming, but enough to steady her nerves. She adjusted the microphone, took a deep breath, and began. 3 months ago, her voice rang clear. I sat alone in an airport terminal, convinced I had lost the most important opportunity of my life. A murmur passed through the crowd. Evelyn locked eyes with a young woman near the back, a trainee gripping a notepad, her hands trembling slightly. I missed a flight. I missed an interview. I thought my chance at success had slipped away. She paused, letting the words settle. But sometimes, she continued, life takes you off course to show you something bigger. If I hadn't stopped, if I hadn't helped a stranger, I would have missed this. She swept a hand across the hangar. This isn't about me. It's about you, the young women and men who will keep this world moving. Those told they weren't enough, not skilled enough, not rich enough, not visible enough. A deep silence hung before Evelyn's voice rose, strong and clear. At Skybound, we don't just believe in travel. We believe in transformation. Sometimes the first runway isn't made of concrete. It's made of belief. The crowd erupted in applause. Evelyn's heart soared. From the side of the stage, Lucas watched, not with pride, but something softer, respect, admiration, something almost like love. Later, Evelyn and Lucas sat on the rooftop again, the city bathed in golden haze that Evelyn's shoes were off, feet dangling over the ledge. Lucas poured 2 glasses of champagne, the soft hiss of the bottle a comforting background noise. To miss flights, Lucas toasted, lifting his glass. To new destinations, Evelyn replied, clinking her glass gently against his. They drank in silence, wrapped in the peacefulness of the night. Lucas leaned back, voice low. I've been thinking, I used to believe success meant building something no one could tear down. Now, I think it's about building something worth sharing. Evelyn smiled. You've done both. Lucas met her gaze. Only because you showed up. A pause stretched between them until Evelyn reached out, her hand resting gently over his. Maybe I wasn't meant to just catch a flight, she whispered. Maybe you were meant to catch me, Lucas replied, his jaw tightening with unspoken emotion. They didn't kiss, at least not yet, but the space between them had closed in a way that words couldn't capture. The next morning, Evelyn walked alone through the new training facility nestled on the edge of the city, a gleaming, buzzing hub of activity filled with rows of airplane parts, tools neatly arranged, and chalkboards covered in diagrams. The air smelled faintly of metal and fresh paint. She moved slowly between aisles, noticing laminated safety checklists in multiple languages, Polaroid photos of eager trainees taped to the walls, faces full of hope and determination. IT reminded her of the science lab she'd adored as a teenager. When she still believed in a future she couldn't yet name, Lucas's quiet footsteps approached from behind. Early riser? Habit, she said with a smile. Can't sleep when my brain is drafting speeches at 5 a.m. He tilted his head. Still thinking about last night? Thinking about what comes next, she said. We've lit the fire. Now, we have to keep it burning. Lucas nodded. And you will. This is only the beginning. They stood in the soft morning light streaming through tall windows, the quiet broken only by distant sounds of trainees arriving. Then Lucas said something that made Evelyn's chest tighten. I want to take you somewhere today. She raised an eyebrow. Planning to whisk me off to another country before lunch? He smiled faintly. Not this time. They boarded a small skybound shuttle and flew 40 minutes inland to a remote village nestled among red dirt roads and waving banana trees. At the edge of a clearing stood a modest building with a tin roof and a handmade sign reading Centro de Aprendizage Skybound. Hope, Evelyn whispered, translating softly. Inside, half a dozen girls no older than 10 sat in front of computers cobbled together from repurposed aircraft parts. They looked up wide-eyed, then smiled shyly. "This is our pilot STEM program," Lucas explained. "We're teaching kids engineering, physics, and mechanics. Not just training workers, we're raising dreamers." Evelyn watched a girl with braids typing code on a dusty keyboard, building a simulation of a drone flight. "She wants to build the first plane powered by salt water," Lucas said softly, reading chalk notes on a nearby board. Evelyn's heart ached with the best kind of pain. "This," she whispered, "this is everything." Lucas's voice was low but steady. "I've built companies, made money, but I never felt like I was building a future until now." Evelyn looked at him, eyes shining. "Then let's build it together." That night, back at the hotel, Evelyn stepped onto the balcony. The city buzzed below like a heartbeat. Lucas joined her moments later, 2 cups of tea in hand. "You said something last night about catching me," he said, handing her a cup. She looked up. "Yes, I think I was falling long before you knew it." Her breath caught, not for the words, but for the quiet certainty behind them. "You make this easier," she said. "The chaos, the stakes, you make it feel steady." Lucas turned to her, voice soft. "That's what real partnership is. Not saving each other, but staying with each other." Evelyn reached out, fingers brushing his. "So, are we doing this?" His lips curved into a smile. "The project." She gave him a look, all of it. He stepped closer, closing the small space between them. "Yes, Evelyn. We're doing this. No interruptions this time. No flights to catch. No words left unsaid." That he kissed her, and the world didn't fall silent. It aligned. For the first time, everything was exactly where it was meant to be. The next morning, Claire woke before dawn. The soft hum of the city was replaced by the gentle chirping of birds outside her hotel window. She lay still for a moment, savoring the calm before the chaos of the day ahead. Aerovita's launch had been a success, but Claire knew that was only the beginning. The real work, the work that would determine if this initiative could truly change lives, was still ahead. She dressed quickly and slipped out onto the quiet streets. The air was thick with humidity, carrying scents of freshly baked bread from nearby bakeries. Vendors were already setting up stalls, and children played barefoot on cracked sidewalks, their laughter piercing the stillness. Her phone buzzed. A message from Liam. "Meet me at the training center. We have visitors." Curious, Claire grabbed her bag and made her way through the narrow streets, weaving between early risers and stray dogs. The Aerovita Training Center was a modest hangar repurposed into a workshop and classroom. Inside, the scent of oil and metal mixed with the sharp tang of coffee. Liam stood near the entrance, speaking quietly with 2 sharply dressed men. Claire recognized one immediately, Thomas Reynolds, the regional minister of education, whose support would be crucial for the program's expansion. "Claire," Liam greeted her with a smile. "Good, you're here." Thomas extended his hand. "Ms. Dawson, I've heard impressive things about your work." Claire shook his hand, masking her nerves. "Thank you, sir. We're committed to making this program sustainable and accessible." Thomas glanced around the workshop. "And what about local involvement? Will the community be part of this?" Liam stepped forward. "Absolutely. That's why we've partnered with local schools and nonprofits to ensure the program reflects their needs and culture." Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "Good. I'll be watching closely. The government is willing to invest if we see tangible results." Claire exchanged a glance with Liam. The stakes were higher now. This was no longer just a passion project. It had become a responsibility that could shape thousands of lives. As the meeting broke up, Liam pulled Claire aside. "They want a demonstration of the trainees' progress next week. We need to prepare." Claire felt a flicker of panic. "1 week? That's barely enough time." "We'll make it work," Liam assured her. "We have to." Over the following days, the training center buzzed with urgency. The trainees, a diverse group of young men and women from nearby neighborhoods, worked late into the evenings. They assembled aircraft models, studied avionics, and practiced coding navigation software. Claire spent hours coaching presentations, helping nervous students find their voice. One afternoon, as Claire walked through the workshop, she noticed a boy sitting alone near a disassembled engine. His clothes were worn, and his hands trembled as he carefully examined a set of spark plugs. "Hey, are you all right?" Claire asked softly. The boy looked up, startled. I'm fine. She sat beside him. I'm Claire. What's your name? Javier, he mumbled. Claire smiled gently. Javier, you're doing great work. Why don't you tell me what you're working on? Javier's eyes lit up. I'm trying to understand why the engine won't start. If I fix this, I can help my family with transport costs. My dad's sick and we need the money. Claire's heart ached. We'll figure it out together. From that moment, Claire made it a point to check in on Javier and others like him. Trainees carrying the weight of their family's hopes on their shoulders. As the demonstration day approached, Claire and Liam stayed late every night, rehearsing speeches, troubleshooting technical glitches, and strategizing outreach plans. The pressure mounted, but so did their determination that on the morning of the demo, the hangar was transformed. Banners hung proudly, and rows of chairs filled with local officials, journalists, and community leaders. Cameras rolled as Claire took the stage. She began by sharing Javier's story, weaving personal narratives into the technical achievements. The trainees showcased their projects: a solar-powered drone, a rudimentary autopilot system, and a simulation program designed by a young woman named Rosa, whose passion for coding had blossomed under Claire's mentorship. The audience listened, captivated by the blend of hope and innovation. After the presentations, Thomas Reynolds approached Claire. This is impressive. With government backing, you can reach even more communities. Claire's smile was tired but genuine. That's our goal. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Liam caught Claire's hand. You did it. Claire exhaled. We did it. But this is just the start. That evening, Claire sat alone on the rooftop terrace, staring at the city's sprawling lights. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Proud of you. Tears welled up unexpectedly. Liam joined her, sensing the moment's weight. You carry so much. Claire nodded. I do, but I want to do more. I want to change the system. Liam's voice was steady. And you will. One step at a time. Days turned into weeks. Aerovita's program expanded, attracting media attention and additional funding. Claire's team grew, but so did the challenges: supply shortages, bureaucratic hurdles, and cultural barriers. One afternoon, Claire received a call that shook her world. Javier had been hospitalized after a severe asthma attack. The nearest clinic was miles away, and his family had little money for treatment. Without hesitation, Claire arranged for emergency transport using Aerovita's resources and personally visited the hospital. She sat beside Javier's bed, holding his hand. Why are you helping me? Javier whispered. Because you remind me why this matters, Claire said softly. Javier smiled faintly. You're like a pilot guiding me through the storm. Claire's eyes glistened. And you're the reason I keep flying. The experience renewed Claire's resolve. She spearheaded efforts to integrate health education and support into Aerovita's programs, partnering with local clinics and NGOs. Meanwhile, her relationship with Liam deepened. They shared quiet moments amidst the chaos, late-night talks, shared meals, and stolen smiles. Yet, beneath the surface, unspoken fears lingered. One evening, as rain pattered against the window, Liam confided, I worry this mission will consume you. Claire took his hand. It's a risk I'm willing to take. He hesitated, then said, Promise me you'll hold on to yourself. Claire smiled. I promise. But promises in the face of relentless struggle often prove fragile. That a week later, Aerovita faced a crisis. A shipment of critical parts was delayed indefinitely due to customs issues, threatening the next phase of training. Claire's phone buzzed nonstop with urgent messages. The pressure was relentless. In a rare moment of exhaustion, Claire confided in Liam. What if I'm not enough? Liam shook his head firmly. You are, more than you know. Together, they rallied the team, improvising solutions and negotiating with local authorities. The crisis passed, but it left scars on equipment, morale, and Claire's spirit. Through it all, the community's gratitude kept them going. Letters from trainees, messages from families, and the tangible progress in young lives fueled their drive. One afternoon, Claire visited a local school where Aerovita had just installed a mini flight simulator. Children crowded around her, their eyes wide with excitement, but a young girl tugged at her sleeve. I want to fly like you someday. Claire knelt down, looking into the child's hopeful face. Then you will, and I'll be cheering you on. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows and bathing the world in amber light, Claire felt something shift inside her. A mixture of exhaustion, hope, and an unshakable belief that the sky was not the limit. IT was just the beginning. The days that followed were both a whirlwind and a test of resilience for Claire and the Aero Vita team. Their success had begun to attract attention, not all of it welcome. Though the project was thriving and gaining momentum, shadows were creeping in, threatening everything Claire had fought so hard to build. One crisp morning, Claire arrived at the office earlier than usual. The sun had just started to cast a golden hue over the city skyline. She sat at her desk, scrolling through emails, when a new message popped up. The sender was anonymous. The subject line read simply, "Watch your back." Claire's heart skipped a beat as she opened the message. Inside was a short, cryptic note. "Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Some wear masks better than others. Be careful who you trust." Her mind raced. Was this a prank or a warning? She glanced around the quiet office, suddenly feeling the weight of every shadow. Before she could dwell further, her phone buzzed. It was Liam. "Hey, Claire, you ready for the investor meeting? It's starting in 10. Claire took a deep breath and replied, "Almost. I'll be there." At the conference room, the atmosphere was tense. A group of high-profile investors from a major capital firm had flown in, and Claire knew their approval could make or break Aero Vita's next phase. Among them, Victor Green stood out, sharp-eyed, impeccably dressed, his smile polite but devoid of warmth. Victor was a man who had made his fortune by crushing competitors and cornering markets. His interest in Aero Vita was both an opportunity and a threat. Claire presented her vision with passion, walking through the data, the community impact, and the technical breakthroughs they had achieved. She saw the investors' eyes flicker with interest, but also with skepticism. When it was Victor's turn to speak, his tone was measured but cutting. "Ms. Evans' impressive work, no doubt. But startups like yours often fail to scale beyond initial enthusiasm. What guarantees can you offer that Aero Vita won't be just another fleeting venture?" Claire met his gaze steadily. "We've built more than technology. We've built trust within the communities we serve. That foundation is stronger than any balance sheet." Victor nodded slowly. "Time will tell. We'll be watching closely." After the meeting, Claire felt a familiar chill. This was only the beginning of a new battle. Back at the office, the mood shifted. A few days later, Liam discovered something alarming while conducting routine maintenance on the drone fleet. Several drones had suffered inexplicable malfunctions, some even crashing without warning. "Claire, you need to see this," Liam called. "I in the workshop." Claire watched as Liam pulled up data logs. "Look at this," he said, pointing. "Firmware corrupted, flight paths scrambled. Someone's been tampering with our systems." Her mind flashed back to the anonymous email. Sabotage wasn't just a fear, it was a reality. "We need to find out who's behind this," Claire said, determination hardening her voice. "If Aero Vita goes down, it won't just hurt us, it'll hurt the whole community." The next few weeks were a tense blur of investigations. Claire assembled a trusted core team, including Rosa, the brilliant young coder who had joined Aero Vita shortly after its founding. Rosa pored over lines of code and system logs with painstaking detail. One evening, Rosa burst into Claire's office, breathless. "Claire, I found something. There's a backdoor in our security system, a deliberate vulnerability someone introduced. This isn't accidental." Claire frowned, pacing. "Any idea who could do this?" Rosa shook her head. "Not yet, but whoever it is knows our network inside out. Someone on the inside." That revelation cut deeper than any external threat. A mole, a traitor. Claire felt her world tilt. She gathered the team in the conference room. "We're facing an internal breach," she said plainly. "Someone is trying to sabotage everything we've built. I want everyone to be honest. If you know anything, now is the time to speak up." Silence filled the room, heavy and suffocating. Liam finally broke the tension. "We'll get through this. Together." Days turned into restless nights as Claire and her team combed through employee records, cross-checking data access logs and communication trails. Claire herself took to reviewing surveillance footage, looking for any hint of suspicious behavior. One night, after hours, she noticed something odd on the security tapes, a shadowy figure lingering near the server room. Entering late at night, when most had gone home, Claire's heart pounded. She replayed the footage repeatedly, trying to make out the face. It was enough to narrow the suspect list. The next morning, Claire confronted Marcus, the newly hired systems administrator who had started shortly before the sabotage began. "Marcus, I need to ask, have you been accessing the server without permission?" Claire's voice was steady but edged with urgency. Marcus looked surprised, then defensive. "I do my job, Claire. If you're accusing me, you better have proof." Before Claire could respond, Liam arrived with data logs confirming unauthorized server access matching Marcus's credentials. With no room to deny, Marcus broke down. "I didn't want to hurt Aerovita, I swear. I was pressured. There's a rival company that offered me a lot of money to get information." Claire's stomach churned. The threat was closer and more insidious than she had imagined. "We're going to fix this," Claire promised, her voice steady but fierce. "You'll cooperate with us to undo the damage." The fallout was brutal but necessary. Claire implemented sweeping security upgrades, restructured internal protocols, and held a series of transparent meetings with the team and community to restore trust. Throughout the crisis, Liam remained by Claire's side, a pillar of support. One evening, as they reviewed the latest drone flight plans, Liam reached out and took Claire's hand. "You're incredible, you know that?" he said softly. "Even when everything feels like it's falling apart, you keep fighting." Claire smiled, squeezing his hand. "I couldn't do it without you." Amidst the rebuilding, new opportunities appeared. An international technology fund approached Aerovita, offering a substantial grant to expand their program globally. The catch: Claire would have to commit to full transparency and rigorous oversight. No more room for error, a public forum. Claire addressed the community and media, her voice steady and passionate. "We face setbacks, betrayals, and doubt. But Aerovita is more than a project. It's a movement. With your support, we'll reach new heights and create opportunities for young innovators everywhere." Applause filled the hall, a wave of hope surging through the crowd. Months later, Aerovita's expansion began, with training centers opening in remote towns, empowering a new generation of youth with skills in drone technology and engineering. In a quiet moment on the rooftop of Aerovita's headquarters, Claire and Liam stood watching the sunset. Claire's eyes sparkled with determination. "This is just the beginning." Liam smiled, wrapping an arm around her. "And whatever comes next, we face it together." Above them, drones soared silently into the twilight sky, symbols of dreams realized, of battles won, and of the promise that the future belongs to those brave enough to reach for it.